Hey, welcome everybody. This is we're back. It's the season that we all been waiting for, the season of the silly. And it's starting to ramp up quite a bit actually. Up until this point, just today, the day we're recording this Tuesday, it's been pretty quiet. And
it's only been a couple little things, and now today things are, I guess it's December 1st, right?
Yeah, December 1st now. So it feels like we're learning things a little bit later every year, which
I would say that every year, though.
Yeah. Well, maybe because it's happening later every year.
I don't know. I think December 1st. Let's mark this on the calendar for next year. We can look and see what happens if it doesn't happen until December 1st, and then we'll.
Yeah. December. All right. December 1st. Hold us to it. So, we thought we'd talk some silly season tonight. Obviously, we're going to start off with what we know. We discussed a little while back now about a topic where, everyone's going to be speculating where X, Y, and Z goes, but we thought maybe we would talk a little bit about where we think people should go. And we would think that that'd be kind of an interesting conversation to have. So, but let's start off with what we know. So the first announcement really for silly season was Lutz and Agama, Nemo really part ways, which I don't think was honestly a big surprise to anybody. I think that as time went on, it seemed like if absolutely nothing else that it just wasn't a good fit for Ryan. And he's been essentially MIA this year because of, what's going on. I think that Agama, on the other hand, too, probably, if we want to be completely honest, probably wasn't getting their money's worth. So it made sense, especially given their position. Let's just shake hands, call it good. It gives Lutz an opportunity to go try something else. And then I think that Agama is quickly realizing maybe a big pay driver isn't what we need. Maybe they have someone that comes on with them next year. Who that would be, I really wouldn't know. But
there's lots of time for this all to play out.
There is, but it'd be kind of interesting. I'm trying to imagine who would be the most likely scenario to replace Lutz at Nemo. And there's not really anybody that's coming to mind.
Seth freaking Van Dalen.
Maybe. Honestly, we talked about this earlier in the year, but that depends entirely on what Techno wants to do with him. And
I find it hard to believe that they're going to have they'll have a spot that's, a paid spot for him.
Yeah, honestly.
I think if Seth continues the way he's been going, then he's going to need a paycheck. So
I think so. So maybe that's the route he goes. Maybe Techno has something slated for him in the future where hey, maybe we're not going to have anything done for this next year, but stick with us, and in the future something could happen. It could be a scenario like that. Most of the races, and this is off my memory, so I could be completely wrong, but it feels like most of the races this year, though, he absolutely outperformed Bornhorst. So at least in buggy,
there was a couple races he did. I think.
Well, there's only a couple races, to be fair.
I think AMS he outperformed him.
Did Bornhorst even make the main at AMS?
Yes. Yeah, I believe he did. But DNC, obviously, Seth TQ'd it, which was huge.
Yeah.
That's kind of his coming out party. So that was cool.
Yeah. So maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I remember it. And at least if they had made the main, I think Seth beat him in just about all of them anyways. But I'd have to go through and research that. Obviously, I think regardless, it's too early to say that Seth is paycheck worthy. I think that if he has a really strong year next year, I think that he would be probably one of the most sought after drivers for people who are actually going to be signing people.
Right. But if you've got a young up and coming team that just had a paid spot that opened up, it it might be a good time to jump on somebody like Seth to entice him to come over and give him a little paycheck
Which
for a
could
little
be which
while.
could be the case. The other issue too I see is that is and I mean this is something that I don't think either of us can answer just because we don't know him, but like is Seth someone that can go to a company at this stage in his career and be a reliable number one that knows the direction he needs to take a car in certain circumstances, can be reliable for feedback? There has to be an ecosystem that sort of develops around there. Is he at a stage in his career where he could do that? That's
Um,
that's going to be an interesting question. Maybe he is. Maybe he could maybe totally be self-sufficient at techno.
I spent a couple of days with him and his father and his girlfriend and everyone the weekend before DNC this year, and he's pretty smart kid. He's pretty good. I think he's right there. He could totally handle something like that. He could be the lead guy for Agama.
It
No problem.
makes yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I could also see the appeal of him to Nemo because Nemo kind of did what Kyosho was doing before in the beginning when they signed Mason, they signed CJ. They were signing people that were young, that were really talented, that could be around a long time. And
Right.
think about the people that Nemo brought on. They were able to pull Tyler Jones away from TLR. They were able to pull Brandon Rose away from Serpent. They had a lot of those sort of guys that were these fast arena track kids.
Yep.
So Seth's clearly another one of those. Although to be able to put a showing on at DNC like he did is something else. So it's definitely, you could look at it from two completely different sides. But yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe Techno did promise him something. Maybe it's another year of, Tebow might retire or something. I'm not really sure. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he sticks around.
No, there was something, some commotion going on earlier in the year, and I think it was before DNC or around DNC something,
Mhm.
and I think it was Seth who, um, after the fact, we learned that he and his father had developed this. I don't know if it was a different rear toe block or something for the car, and maybe I'm getting it wrong, and it wasn't the Van Dalens, but I'm thinking it was. So they had developed something that had helped the car a bunch, and they didn't have it for the whole rest of the team, so they were told that they couldn't run it.
Mm.
Something like that. So if it is the Van Dalens that I'm thinking about, that had this part and developed this part and everything, it leads me to believe that they're smart enough, and Seth is smart enough and a good enough driver to be able to figure out setups and little things that need to be updated and changed, and they can give feedback like that. So that's valuable to a company.
Yeah, maybe he can then. Maybe he can then. So that's something to watch. So yeah, I think that would be the best route for him in that case. And I think probably the best outcome mutually would be that if Van Dalen decides, hey, I'm going to leave techno, then I would say that Nemo is probably the best fit, because he's going to be someone that's moldable over time, but also Nemo really is in a spot where they're moldable as well. And I think that it's in their best interest to honestly have someone that can provide feedback to continuously update that 8-scale platform.
Right. Yep.
So, yeah, I mean,
That's
I think the car is better than people give it credit for, but it's not like Agama is sitting there with this absolute banger of an 8-scale and no one is driving it. They
yeah.
need someone to continually push that development.
Right.
So
Yep.
I think that's a good take. Okay. So that was one to watch. And we can go into really just what was announced today, which was Joe Pillars. And
That was the big one, I think.
yeah, so like let's put this out there because it's like the worst kept secret ever. Yokomo's done. Yokomo's done. So everyone
I don't know if they're done.
Yokomo's done at least in racing.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't think they're going to go away. Just like Kyosho didn't go away when they had financial troubles.
I think they're done because I think they're gonna. So I don't think the company's gonna go away. I think they're gonna go out like Tamiya did. The problem is that I think that if the team disappears, Yokomo disappears entirely. Because you and I were talking about this today. Yokomo had a pretty large disparity in terms of the people who were team drivers for them and people who were privateers. If you went to a track, pick any track at a 10 scale wise, I mean, there had to have been very select pockets of the country that were strong Yokomo privateer bases. They did not have that impact.
Before Joe came along, Yokomo was very, they've always been known because they've been around forever, but you didn't see them that often at the track.
No. It was the explosion of carpet. It was the explosion of carpet, and then it was boosted by Joe leaving Kyosho to go to Yokomo.
Yeah, Joe really sold a lot of cars for them. Not sure if the majority were retail sales or if it was team sales. I don't know, but there was a lot more Yokomo out at the tracks, and you would see them regularly, whereas before you didn't.
Yeah, no, that's just true. But even in the beginning, like even at Die Hard, there was a boom of Yokomo when people started to figure out that they're really good carpet cars, and then they started to go away. The ones that stayed were team drivers. The rest just went on to do other things. So the interesting thing to me is that, look, Pillars is gone. We can assume Mayfield's going to follow. Nothing's been announced yet, but why would he stay?
That's a big one, actually. That would be a big announcement, or whether he stays or goes.
Yeah, that's the one that nobody's talking about.
Right.
And I don't see, I really do believe at this point that Yokomo is basically departing from racing. I don't get the cloak and dagger unless it really is just something that's falling apart for them that they can't control and people are jumping ship as they can. But you're going to see basically next to none of them next year. I'm pretty positive Mayfield leaves. So and we had people like Matthew Gonzalez already leaving. You imagine that the people that were Pillars core group, they're all going to go.
Yeah.
So where does that really leave them? Another one, OCRC, Jackie Thayer. He was like the biggest Yokomo guy there, and he's gone. So maybe
all those key guys are going to go and leave and probably go where Joe goes.
Yeah, and maybe we're reading into it too much, and it could just be Joe's leaving, so other people are leaving. But this has been circling around for a while now that Yokomo is there's something going on. So I have a tough time believing it's just mob mentality.
I think I don't know for sure if they went and filed for bankruptcy, but if they didn't, it was probably close. And I understand that somebody had purchased Yokomo recently.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. I don't know the details, but it's something along those lines. So something has changed for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's I remember something about them being bought, but I don't remember the details.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't want to speculate too much because that's
Regardless though, that's a big void. So Pillars through doing kind of the privateer team thing through One Up, which is pretty cool. And this is something that like we talked about before going on air, is that this is something that a lot of us have been kind of waiting to see somebody do. Is maybe we step away from the manufacturer basis for teams. I mean, obviously they're supported by their They're supported by AE in this case. But this is a big step.
This is something we've talked about. We talked about it. I think we've talked about it on the show, and we've also talked about it off the show extensively, where a privateer team would be really, really cool if it could get the support of some manufacturers to help along with it. My concern with something like that is getting enough people on the team that are going to run all the same product.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their own little sponsors here and there, and you go to a privateer team like that, and you're pretty. I don't know how they're actually going to run it, but typically the way I envision it is everybody runs the same products. You run the Muchmore, you run the Jaycon tires, you run the Associated buggy, and getting all that together. If anybody can do it, Joe can do it.
No, I agree.
Joe's a magician when it comes to that kind of stuff. So, and he can get people to follow. So, I think it's a great idea. I'm excited to see how it works, and if more of these kind of things pop up here and there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love to see more of these privateer type teams. I think it's great.
I think this is what we need to kind of boost RC to that level. I mean, this is what we were speculating that RCGP could be.
Right.
Like, this is exactly what we would want.
Yeah, well, you saw the Scampy Rossi team and, the Beach RC team. And you had some of these wildcard teams and privateer teams that entered RCGP. And I thought that was great. It was exciting because they were just kind of, they could hire a driver here and there or wherever. And it's not, it's the same old one manufacturer team versus one manufacturer team.
Yeah.
And it gives some of the smaller companies the opportunity to play in the big leagues.
No, I completely agree with that. This is what I wanted to see happen at that level, was that I wanted to see a team exist, not because, I mean, you could have manufacturer teams, sure, but I wanted to see more participation of people who just stood up and said, I'm going to put something together, and that their team could have, they could have sponsors, they could have chassis sponsors, they could have tire sponsors or whatever, but across the team, it's the same.
Right.
It's the same. And that's what I was really hoping to see. I understand entirely why it hasn't happened this way, but I mean, everyone likes to dream a little bit in this hobby. So that's kind of where I was hoping it would go. So this is the beginnings of that. I mean, I know this isn't the first time it's been done. I know that there was factory tracks racing, but this is probably going to pan out to be the largest that it's ever been done on a level, right? So I'm interested to see, one, what it's all going to look like, and two, what the drivers, how that's going to work, or the people go over and then is it a fixed product line across all these teams? Is it, who do they pull over? That's the thing that I'm kind of interested in.
Right. But, I'm kind of thinking along on the other side of things, where is this an indication of where the industry's going? Like, no offense to anybody here when I say this, but I'm fairly certain that what OneUp is going to pay Joe to do this has got to be less than what Yokomo is paying him to do this job.
Mm-hmm.
And is this, I'm going to get shit for this, but is this an indication that there wasn't a job open? Is that kind of position slowly going to fade away? Those paid positions for team managers like Joe?
I think that I think you are right, but I also think there's more to it. So I think that We've been talking a little while now, especially this was accelerated by COVID, was that drivers slowly are going to start going away because of the economy for RC is changing, and the way promotional pieces happen is changing. You know, the way the companies advertise, it's all changing. It really isn't 100% based off of who's winning and then who you subsequently see in the magazines. And then it was like that for a little while on social media, but then people start to pay attention to other things. And things have been, honestly, to be completely honest with you, things have been stale long enough now in the RC industry in terms of who the drivers are, that I think because we haven't seen that sort of mix up, that people, consumers really, are starting to look in different directions in terms of what matters to them. So while, yeah, I think you are right. Where was Pillars going to go is I think the chief thing among this. I would imagine that everything was happening with Yokomo, and then the conversation went, you know, hey, here's an idea, and they explored that. You know, it's not like he could go to X, Y, or Z companies and just do what he was doing there, like when he left Kyosho to go to Yokomo. The industry is not like that. So, because realistically, what happened? Kyosho died, essentially, when Joe left, and Yokomo was there to fill the void. You traded one for the other. You don't have that now. So there's not a new emerging company that is taking market share across 10 scale platforms. So I think you're right there, but also I think maybe we're starting to see the manufacturers, they don't need to pay as much into a driver themselves, right? And then these drivers, they have all their own little sponsors and everything else. So let's think of it from the sense of, okay, so then there's less value for it in manufacturers directly to have these teams. Now, could we see, though, that a market could develop from this, that from privateer teams, maybe from people putting their own, you know, sort of, you know, organizations together like this 1UP thing? Is there incentive for people to go and do that and then attract manufacturers as sponsors for that team? Because overall, it's probably less money for the manufacturers. So,
right, because the team itself is going to do a majority of the marketing and advertising as far as the racing is concerned.
Yeah. So this could be, inadvertently, this could be the start of where the RC industry is going, because it's no secret manufacturers are trimming down drivers. Everyone is basically down to 2 or 1. I mean, who has more than 2 or 1 at this point? Who has more than 2? I don't.
2 paid drivers?
2 paid drivers that compete on a national level, and not even just in both platforms, but at least in one or the other.
That's that I can't answer.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Because I don't think there is one at this stage. So, and let's just, I mean, we're just talking states right now. And because you got to understand, internationally, things change in terms of the organizations. Remember when we had Drake on that in episode 37, talking about how Mugen really is 3 different entities. So those drivers drive for those entities. So,
yeah. And oftentimes the distributor for whichever country we're talking about, other than the United States, the distributor is the one who's organizing and paying all of that.
Exactly. So there's that to consider as well. So especially too, if some of the distributors like Horizon or Neidhart, they own their companies. So let's think of it from that perspective. So it makes silly season interesting in a way too, because a lot of these drivers, like a Cavalieri, like a Lutz, while they're still quick, while they're still competitive, we saw that with Cavalier's win at AMS, and then to immediately turn around and actually do really well with S-Works at the carpet champs too, is that the reality is, though, unfortunately, is that a driver who still is on top of their game, if they're going to leave, where are they going to go?
Yeah.
Not a lot of options.
You also don't know if they've burnt bridges in the past leaving certain companies, whether they can even go back.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, how often do you see, I mean, that's besides tire companies are like the big exception. How often do you see a driver leave a company at that level and then go back?
Right.
It's not very often.
We do have some news about that today. It was just announced before we started recording. Ryan Lutz has gone back to Alpha.
Well, right. There is that, which was kind of funny because that whole thing was born out of he needs an engine that can go 7 minutes. But in which I understand that the whole block thing was that was kind of where that came from. But, I mean, good for him, first of all, but also at the same time, like, maybe what options were there for a paid engine sponsorship or circumstance? And this is not to shine negatively on Lutz, but look, let's be honest. If Ryan, who really didn't have a whole lot of I can't really say it was a great 2 years at Nemo. So you have a driver who is already in a really small market at this point. The market is shrinking vastly. He has to consider himself really fairly fortunate to have someone like a WRC, who we did cover their release on this podcast last year. This was some time ago. I couldn't tell you what episode this was, but when they announced their car and that they were making one, and we were thinking, all right, well, we'll see what comes of it. But they were really fortunate that on both sides, I guess, is that, Lutz had a company that was looking for exposure because WRC was non-existent. I mean, they're an Italian on-road car manufacturer. So it's not like they had market share here. So all of a sudden this open driver, this driver becomes available. And so they have an opportunity there, and subsequently Lutz has an opportunity. If WRC had not done that, and there wasn't this new 8-scale company looking to pay somebody, seeking somebody out, then what would he have done? Realistically, where was he to go? He could be a Drake somewhere. He absolutely could. But the reality is I can't imagine, unless there were conversations behind closed doors that I was not privy to, which is completely plausible. But
I'm sure there's a lot of conversations.
Oh, sure.
That we're not privy to.
Well, in the sense that how many were they actually going to turn into something, right? So, yeah, I mean, that is a question worth asking, and you can tear my ass up for it if you want, but where does he go?
Right. Right. Yeah. S-Works might have had a spot, maybe. I don't know. I mean, this whole situation with, Cav, the rumor is Cav doesn't want to run carpet anymore. Doesn't want to run 10 scale anymore. It only wants to run 8 scale, and S-Works wants him to run both. Maybe there's an announcement coming that he's out at S-Works.
It could be. That could be. Yeah. And then who goes to replace him? Maybe, hell, for all I know, WRC might sign a second driver, and that could be Cavalieri. We don't know. But I guess if there is truth to that rumor, which I find kind of fascinating, really, just because you have a 4-time 10 scale world champion that doesn't want to race 10 scale anymore. Maybe he just wants to do, maybe he just likes 8 scale better. I don't know, but I just think it's kind of funny, really, at a glance. But S-Works is like the one anomaly here, where they haven't shown the trend to be them, but they're sort of panning out to be the new Infinity of the off-road world, right? Where
a little bit,
right? Not quite to where Infinity was, but they've made it clear that they're willing to spend a little bit to gain some market share. So
at least S-Works has an off-road car.
Well, yeah. So that's why I say that. I'm as far as I'm considering at this point, with the way everything's gone, Infinity is non-existent in the off-road world.
Yeah. So it's been a long time. They said they've been working on this off-road car, and man, where'd they go?
They, we're thinking about this the wrong way. They were the first privateer team. Infinity's just paying people, and then they're just running whatever.
They were self-funded to do whatever they wanted
It's
to do.
just advertising. Yeah.
We've all been duped.
Yeah, exactly. There was no off-road car. So, that's funny.
I think we've talked about their off-road car, and I think it was I think on schedule to be raced at the Worlds this year.
No, in all seriousness, yes. In all seriousness, yes, it was supposed to be there, and then it got tabled because of COVID.
Right, but you would think if they've got the car somewhat ready or ready to go at this point, wouldn't you want to release it?
Yeah, but also, I mean, we've kind of seen this with the way they handle drivers sometimes. They sure fire from the hip sometimes in terms of business decision making.
Yeah, maybe.
So
yeah.
it could be as simple as that. It's just my impression.
But maybe here we go. Maybe they sold the design and the rights to that car to Mayako.
Wouldn't that be interesting? I hope you're listening, Keenan.
I don't know. I'm just spitballing here.
Wouldn't that'd be really fascinating? That would be really funny, actually, because I remember listening to Keenan's show. I don't remember which one in particular, but he was talking about that Joseph was saying that it can that brand, because you have to go listen to it if you haven't. But he has a title sponsor for his podcast, but the title sponsor actually hasn't disclosed what it is they're going to be making. So Joseph was saying that realistically it can be anything as long as it's not another 8-scale platform. So I think that would be pretty funny if that was just here's Infinity, pushing this off to these guys. There you go.
Who knows?
Oh God, that'd be funny. Long shot, but
I things get weird in my head at night.
But I mean, in all seriousness though, I mean, it's really interesting to see what's going on. Oh, I mean, I was reading Chris Trudeau's question, which I'll ask in a minute. Back to our Yokomo thing.
Yeah.
I forgot all about this. Volker's gone. So I mean, if you lose Volker, you lose Pillars. You're going to be losing. You've lost a lot of your drivers already. I imagine Mayfield's to follow. I think there's something going on.
You would be crazy to not think that there was something major going on.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think that for sure confirms it for me, because we were at that point really where when we talked about Volker leaving on this show, we were like, what's going on? That's strange.
Right.
So that was
that was a weird one.
And that was some time ago. So I guess it's been a while. We kind of forgot about that, but
that was kind of odd because it was early in the season.
Yeah.
Early for silly season anyway.
It was weird.
Mid-year almost.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Really interesting. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for all of that, because I have no idea what happened there. And then subsequently go to Mugen so soon.
Right.
Which I still don't understand. But anyways, so see, there's a lot of, this is an interesting silly season, because it's what we've seen in the past. This is every like silly season before this is more about where drivers are going to boost their careers to become potentially world champion. And this is the first silly season we're seeing where this is sort of coming true of what we've been saying of the market is dictating silly season more than the drivers are. This is the first time we've seen this, really. So that puts everything and all this speculation in a completely different light, because we're having to consider that drivers on the core, unfortunately, are just not as valuable as they were.
Well, what's interesting to me is we're seeing people like Joe Pillars and Ryan Lutz doing some very creative things to continue down their career path in this industry.
Yeah.
I think it's an indication of what we've all been saying, where the industry's changing, and these high paid positions at some of these manufacturers are probably fading. I won't say going away completely, but they're starting to fade. And I mean, this year with the economy and the COVID and all that kind of stuff, I'm sure was a major part of that. But I think the trend was kind of going in that direction to begin with, even before all of this stuff happened this year.
Yeah, I think it was
And-
just accelerated. I think we're just
Yeah.
seeing it happen a little bit faster than we had intended to.
Right. And people are going to have to be creative in continuing to get a paycheck in this industry.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I mean, while it is awesome that Pillars, because I mean, no secret, he has a great relationship with Randy Castor of One Up. So I mean, it's not like he had to lay a complete foundation to make this happen. But
Right.
so I mean, which is great for him. But reality is that look, he kind of had to step outside the box a little bit probably to be able to continue to do that sort of thing. And like you said, Lutz picking up a distributorship and renewing that relationship with Alpha. That's something, and expanding, Lutz RC, right? That's an indication that said, okay, we need to, I don't want to say it, in the past, I would have said retirement plan, but I think it's really not about that anymore. I think it's just that this is how we need to survive in the industry now.
I think it's a survival plan.
I think it absolutely is. Yeah. So, and like, look, and I can't stress this enough. This is in no way a reflection of the drivers or the individuals in a negative light. We're not saying they did anything wrong or they're worthless. It's that this is just the way, this is what's happening to RC. This is what we predicted.
Changing.
Yeah. This is what we predicted a long time ago. This is happening now. So it's kind of interesting.
Things aren't what they used to be, for sure.
No. Go ahead.
I think that this is only the beginning of it. I think it's going to continue, and a lot of the manufacturers are going to change the way they do business with their teams and that sort of thing. So it's all we're all going to see it change eventually for every one of us.
Yeah, absolutely. So
get creative, folks.
Yeah. Prove your worth in other ways.
That's right.
So let me ask Chris's question, and then we can segue into what is, I think, what like our other main topic here, which is where drivers should go. But he says, with regards to silly season, maybe more relevant for Colin since he's had a longer racing history. We are often surprised by moves drivers make, for example, Lutz to WRC, but what was the most iconic silly season move? Kinwald to Losi, Mayfield to Losi, Boots to S-Works, Volker to Mugen, etc. Is Tim moving to Macklin? And any predictions on Joe Pillars to another team, which we've already answered because that has been revealed since he asked. So, I mean, let's just start off with the first bit. I mean, what was the most... What was the most surprising one of your lifetime?
Surprising to me, and that's really, really hard to answer, but I think the most surprising to me was kind of a combo deal with Mayfield and Cavalieri leaving Team Associated. I think we all thought that was going to be lifelong, their lifelong path, where they would be with them forever, kind of like Dakota's been with TLR for his whole career so far.
Yeah.
If Dakota somehow leaves TLR at some point, it's kind of going to be the same kind of shock.
Yeah.
But to me, I think those two leaving Associated so close to each other too, it wasn't far. I think it was less than a year, wasn't it? If I remember correctly.
Oh, Mayfield and Cavalieri?
Yeah.
No, Mayfield was 20, quite earlier in the decade. It wouldn't have been any later than 2015 for sure. And then Cavalieri was the end of 2018.
Okay, well there I am showing my age.
It all blends together after a while.
Kind of does.
But no, I mean, I think that I think it's still a valid answer though, because if you take two guys that were perceived to be lifers for them.
Yeah.
And then it was interesting, honestly, to see Mayfield leave AE, go TLR, and then after not really being at TLR all that long, to go to Mugen. Obviously, Drake helped that, but
that was definitely a Drake deal.
Yeah.
Because Mayfield instantly had success with TLR.
Yeah.
At least on the 8 scale side.
Until a Worlds happened, but yeah. And I think that then that was kind of part of it, is that he went to TLR and he was quick. He was very quick.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So I think that made the move to Mugen more surprising in that sense, was because I think people saw, like, when he was at TLR, he was experiencing success. Why would he leave? And, it really wasn't like the results were dipping, and to go to Mugen after that, I think that was kind of a big shock, because people had seen him really at that point where it was Mayfield as your number one and Fend as your two, and that those were going to be your two guys, your staples, and then to see Mayfield leave that was strange. So
actually, now that I'm thinking about it more, I have something that was probably more of a shocker.
Yeah,
which isn't really such a driver related thing, but Gil Losi leaving Losi.
Yeah.
Selling Losi or whatever happened there, and walking away from the brand that he and his family and his father they built, and selling the name basically.
Yeah.
That was a big one for me over the years.
When did that happen?
Oh, was it late 90s, 2000s, early 2000s, something like that?
Wild.
Somebody will correct us. Somebody please correct us.
Somebody knows.
let us know, because I'm not going to take the time to look it up on my computer right now. But
and it predates my time in the industry quite a bit.
Kids these days.
Kids, yeah. No, I mean, that's fair. I think for me, this one I think will be a little bit this is a little bit disappointing probably for some people listening, and then it's a little bit of foreshadowing and what do I want to talk about later. But for me, it was Tessmann to X-Ray. That was one that I think the writing was on the wall, similar to where Cavalieri was leaving AE. People were starting to really suspect something would happen, but it was less sure with Tessmann. And the thing with it, what's that?
That was huge, because Tessmann and Gord, Ty and Gord, kind of built.
Yeah, that's why
racing side of HB.
Yeah, that's why. That's honestly why I think it was monumental, really, because that was a brand that had really become a part of them, and they were a part of. I mean, they were synonymous. You thought of HB, you thought of Tessmann, and vice versa. Like, they were linked. And right. He had been with them honestly a long time. From the time he was, God, how old was he when he raced that 2008 Worlds? Not even 15. He was even younger than that.
I think he was 14 or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. He was a kid. He was a kid racing that A main in Charlotte. And that was really the early days of HB when it was hot bodies. And yeah, it really, as time went on, they designed the cars around him. All the marketing was surrounded around him, and it was really, he was the image and pushing through as much of HPI's bullshit as possible. And
right, when you pictured hot bodies in the early days, it wasn't HB racing at that point; it was hot bodies,
right?
And it was like a spin-off of HPI, which was basically toys.
Yeah, more or less.
More or less, kind of not toy grade RC cars.
They weren't toy grade. They were hobby grade, but it was like the weird, more complicated and more fragile version of Traxxas.
Right.
Where they made the same sort of things, but none of it really was as appealing or easy to work on or easy to maintain.
Right. But they did make the coolest bodies over the years.
They did. They had some of the greatest licensed vehicles. They really did. And I think everyone at this point has at least people who were in RC before HPI went in the dumpster, everyone's owned an RS4 probably. So
I had an RS4 Micro. That's the only RS4 I've had.
Yeah, see, I think it counts. So all things considered, yeah, I mean that was huge because when HPI sold them in 2016 when they became HB, it was only a span of 9 months that Tessmann raced for them before they were gone.
Yep.
And that was big. And like I said, we knew things were happening, but I don't think anybody really expected it to culminate like that soon. So
right. Yeah, and I don't think Ty has had quite the success with X-Ray as he did with the Hot Bodies car. I mean, he's been really good and really fast, and he's always right there. But he almost seemed dominant in that era with the Hot Bodies car.
Well, see, this is where we were going anyways, so let's just get into this conversation now. So this is a bold take maybe, but I genuinely don't believe that Tessmann will win another Worlds as long as he's at X-Ray. I genuinely don't believe it. It's not a reflection of the cars at all. Honestly, it's not. I mean, I think that having the cars developed around you and basically controlling that input, I think is absolutely advantageous. Let's not discount that at all. But look, I mean, we've talked about this before a lot off air about this, and the thing is that with someone like Ty, if you have someone like Ty leave HB, like what happened, you don't just have Ty when you bring them on as a company. If you are a prospect company that you could be signing Ty Tessmann, you're not just signing Ty Tessmann, you're signing Gord, and honestly, by extension, you're signing his whole family, and which is great. But the thing is that what we've seen is that they need to be somewhere where they can have control, where Gord can be at some sort of administrative level, where they can have a team and a dynamic that is shaped the way that they want it to be. So for X-Ray in America, that's the Tessmanns. They are the number ones. They are the guys that, they at the top level in North America, they are the guys that own it, essentially, right? If for all intents and purposes, they are what they were to HB. However, and so he will continue to win various national championships at all scales, right? And he's still very, very quick. He's still as competitive maybe per race than he was at HB. But this is my theory though, is that the second that the race gets international and we are fighting for a Worlds, X-Ray, a European company who have paid European drivers in-house that go there, that drive there as part of their job, between Coelho, between Bayer designs the cars, right? He plays a huge role there. The second that those races go international, he's not their number one anymore. It's completely feasible to assume that X-Ray would prefer, and I'm not saying they're playing favorites, but just by the nature of the dynamic of a company, that's based in Slovakia, that they are going to likely see more success with a European driver like we've seen with Coelho than we are going to see with Tessmann. He doesn't have the support system internationally that those drivers do, because reality is he's not just a quick plane ride away from them. You can't just drive and go meet them at an arena somewhere. So consider that aspect. Is that honestly, I understand why he left HB. I completely get it, between everything that was happening between the Tessmann camp and then the new owners, who obviously were very, very much Rana Fox core group of people because of Rana Fox's previous relationship with Orion, whose parent company bought HB. So it was people Rana Fox already were a part of. So on top of that, Rana Fox drove for HB anyways at that point. So it's I understand the angle that the Tessmanns had to take, and that we needed to be somewhere where we can have our influence, because as honestly, to be perfectly candid with you, as Gord's words were to me, was, we felt like we weren't needed anymore. So the question is, though, is X-Ray, who what really was at that time kind of the only feasible option because that's the only place that had that void, is that the place that Ty is going to win another Worlds? I don't think so. So now here's the thing. How do you fix that? And to be perfectly honest with you, I think the only thing you can do is that they have to relinquish that control somewhere, and Ty has to just go be a driver somewhere else and just be at that level. And Gord can be there, but I don't think they can fit the whole family dynamic into the company structure anymore, where Gord's a team manager, where everything's sort of based around them. I don't, especially with the way that the market is shrinking, I don't see how that dynamic works anymore. I think their time is running out if they're going to continue to do that.
Yeah, maybe they'll get creative and do something, come up with something completely different. And, maybe Infinity needs somebody like them.
Yeah, why couldn't they? They could totally go that route.
Yeah.
Let's not kid ourselves. Like, Ty is, there was a period, I mean, people recognize Davide's dominance, that basically he emerged onto the scene 2018. He had an amazing breakout year. I mean, everyone already knew his name before that, but 2018, he had an amazing breakout year. 2019 was even better, really, after he became world champion. So, but people are kind of quick to forget that Ty was at that level, if not even more dominant before and after he became world champion.
Right.
He was unbelievably quick, and he was so hard to beat. If anyone, especially newer that listens to our show, doesn't believe me, 2015 Roar Nationals, he absolutely destroyed that field in both 8-scale races. Both of them. It was like not even close. One of them, if not both, he lapped the field in. Like, the guy was quick, and he still is with X-Ray, but I don't see that happening for him. And so, honest
that edge that he had.
No, I haven't. And that's the thing. Like, when you saw Ty at a race when he raced for HB, it was hard to imagine somebody beating him. It really was. Like, he was he was the guy you did not want to bet against. That's on Garo now, but Ty hasn't. I have not really seen that since he left HB. So I don't know. It's a tricky situation, but I have such a tough time imagining a scenario where they go and they win another world championship that way. Because that's the company is just not them.
I don't know. The worlds are always so complicated and so difficult that any of those top drivers, like when Cody King won his, did anybody expect him to win it? No. When Mark Pavidis won his, did anybody expect him to win it? Probably not. When Greg Degani won his, did anybody expect him to win it? No.
A lot of people didn't. No.
So a lot of things happen during a world's race that, especially 8-scale, because the main is so long, anything can happen, and everything has to go right to win it. You have to have a lot of luck and a lot of skill, and everything just has to fall into place. So, the world's favorite, like, let's say Ongaro going into the next worlds, if he wins it again, that is a major feat.
Oh, it's massive.
Bigger than the first one.
It's massive. No, let's not discount at all that. Let's not discount at all that winning a second world championship, especially in 8-scale, just in general, is extremely, extremely difficult to do and almost never happens. Actually, I can't remember a circumstance where it has.
Where somebody's won 2
in 8-scale. We've had this conversation before, but I genuinely can't remember.
That one I am going to look up.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that it has been done. You keep talking. I'm going to look.
Well, I just pulled it up.
Oh, you're faster typer than I am.
Okay. He's Italian, so I'm going to butcher his name, but
Yeah,
Maurizio Manesi. He won in 88 and 94 for the first one was with a Garbo Road Fighter, and the second one was with a Kyosho Turbo Inferno.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. So, okay. So he's the only one. Everybody else is one. So, but Ty going into 2016, I think was what people had pegged to be the most likely to win a second world championship. Maybe people thought the same about Ongaro going into 2020, especially given the dominant streak he was on. But I still kind of had it in the back of my mind going into Brazil that Ongaro wasn't going to become a double world champion. So, and the thing that strikes me with Ty is like, yeah, you could argue that like Ronafok, 2018, well, that was a year he could have been double world champion. Battier could have been double world champion in 2014. But I remember explicitly watching the 2012, 2014, and 2016 Worlds, all of which Ty podiumed in. Ty won in 2014. And he drove well enough, all things considered, in all three of those races that he could have won those Worlds. The two that he lost, take nothing away from Ronafok in 2016. I mean, that was his night. But like that was an amazing performance. And the Worlds in Argentina was an absolute outstanding race. Battier earned that one too. You could almost attribute Tessmann's losses in 2012 and 2016 to strategies. The tire choice for the 2016 one in Vegas was terrible. Fugitive lights were not the play. I'm not really sure what their goal was. I don't know what they thought the track might turn into. But, I mean, he had tire fade, I swear, like 20 minutes into the race. So it really seemed like when he left in 2016, after that happens, that you go into a Worlds like 2018, and that's going to be one where, like, look, if he's still right there, then, you know, I mean, I think the guy's special. Now, it could happen. I could be completely talking out of my ass, but it's just one of those things where I just wonder, like, if we're going to go by like missed opportunities, I think this is one of them. And I wonder, and so the question is at this point, like, did he hurt his chances by leaving HB? Or was it kind of just a doomed future at HB, just the way that things were going? It's hard to say. But, I mean, that one is frustrating to kind of think about because, like, I feel like Ty has the skill set, and under the right circumstances, he could win another, not only world championship, but a dominating world championship. I think it could happen. So where did he lose the edge?
I don't know. You have to think that the equipment maybe is not quite suited to him as.
I think at a top level there is such thing as not suiting a driver well.
Yeah.
When people at a regional level talk, trade and stuff like that and say, oh, the car didn't suit me and stuff like that. I mean, I think half the time they're probably full of it. But I think at that level, I think that's completely plausible. I mean, it has to matter. The equipment has to matter. And that's not saying that X-Ray makes bad cars. It just might mean that X-Ray doesn't work for him. We don't know. It's difficult. And so,
well, I'm looking at a list here right now of most wins in the world championships by car manufacturers.
It's not even close.
X-Ray is above HB, but HB doesn't really do on-road.
They have one on-road world championship. I think it was 1986.
Right.
I think that's the only one, though.
Far less on-road than X-Ray.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow, man, Masami. Every list I look at, Masami's at the top by a mile. Holy cow!
And
Uh,
even looking at just the off-road one a little bit too, thinking about kind of the fall from grace a little bit. I mean, Kyosho just owned 8 scale for years.
yeah.
What is that? 7? I'm looking, 6 straight world championships between 92 to 2002. That's crazy. That won't ever happen again.
Probably not.
Probably not.
No.
Now, to be fair, there were like 3 8 scales at the time, but I mean, it's no secret Kyosho made the best one by far. But I don't know, it's interesting. So, I mean, Tessmann, I don't know where he should go. Like, this was kind of the whole point that I was getting to, is like, if he is, I don't think he's going to leave this year, but if he were going to, where would be the best fit? That's tough. And I mean, even the HB now, like, to be completely honest with you, I mean, they update the car basically every year, but the base DNA of the car is still very much the legacy that he left.
Oh, it is. It still looks very, very similar. I know some of the geometry's changed and little things have changed here and there, but the basis of that car is still what they created when they were there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's one that I'd have to ponder. The other thing is drivers that I would say, I mean, what are some other drivers that maybe aren't in the best fits right now? Which is another difficult one,
Cavalieri, I don't know. If maybe he's just not putting in the effort he used to when he was, on top all the time. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
It's kind of weird to think, because it's like when we watched the AMS race, which was super fun to do the call along for. But when we watched AMS, it was so hard to tell if he was comfortable with the car or if that was just Cavalieri being Cavalieri and being one of the greatest to ever do it in the way that he was driving. It's tricky. He's been so hard ever since he left AE. And obviously things did not work out at Yokomo. But it's been so hard to judge the results on whether it's him or if it's him not meshing with the equipment, and then the good results that we've seen as of late, if that's him coming around to the equipment or finding his footing again, maybe he is putting more preparation in, or if it's just everybody's got their day still. He has been so hard to judge based off that. So but then again, this is an interesting question. And this is what I'm waiting to see, is that at S-Works, there's no reason to doubt that the cars are good, but I'm curious to see if they pick up a second driver, who they pick up, and how well they do consistently. Like, what is their average basis? I think that'll be very telling.
They have drivers in Europe and such.
They do, but Europe's kind of too. They do. I mean, Canas is very fast, and proven to be a contender every time he's there. Like I said, I have no reason to doubt that the car isn't good. But I'd be curious to. But this is the other thing I wonder, though, is it also a difference in conditions maybe as well, because we know how different the circumstances can be in Europe. And when they have their big races, how different the tracks can be from the races we have here. This is why that's kind of why I'm waiting to see if they sign another American, because if they do, and we see how they continue to do in the same conditions as Cavalieri, then maybe that will help tell the story a little bit about what's going on, because it didn't seem even at the end where it seemed like him and AE were falling out of love a little bit. It didn't seem like his results were so hit and miss.
Right. Well, they did bench him for one race. I remember that.
Yeah, which I think to this day is still heavily speculated as to why. But I think it's interesting that's what I'm waiting to see. The question is then, okay, if S-Works is truly not a good fit, and which again at this point I still just don't know, because he did put 2 really good races out, and it's kind of sad that this has sort of become the benchmark. But I mean, the races have been few and far between this year. But I mean, he did put a couple. I think at least one JBRL win this year. So
it's a club race.
It is, but I mean, in all things considered, I mean, you still have a couple people that show up that could feasibly beat him.
Yeah, there's some fast dudes for sure that race JBRL.
Yeah, so
I'm just making fun.
No, but I know what you mean, and to be fair, it is a valid point. So
it's a 1-day race.
Yeah, it's a 1-day race. So there's variables aplenty. But the question is, and okay, is S-Works not a good fit? Then yeah, where does he go? He might find himself again in a similar circumstance where if he wants to continue to make money in the industry, unless someone like WRC wants to sign him, then does he take on a higher level role? And I don't know. That would be interesting to see if Cavalieri would do something like that.
I don't know the amount of effort it takes to go on the other side of being a racer,
especially if you haven't been doing that at all.
Right.
That's a big endeavor. That's a very big endeavor.
It is a ton of work. Trust me.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's a tricky one. So honestly,
I think if he's smart, he'll stick with what he's got right now for as long as he can.
I think so.
And try to be as influential within the company as he can and ride it out.
I think
where he's at.
Yeah, I think you can only, I mean, he was at AE for a long time. So I think that if you're going to be somewhere that long and turn around and go to a different company that is, in all things considered, fairly new in terms of being a competitive 8-scale platform, like seriously competitive 8-scale platform, you got to wait it out a while.
Right.
You know, Cavalieri, no question, one of the best to ever do it. But it really doesn't matter who you are. Is that if you spend the vast majority of your career with one company and have the relationship you have with that one company, you're not going to turn around and just have immediate success.
Right.
You know, I mean, even just look at Tessman's 2017. He did win a nationals that year, but for most of the year, people were kind of wondering, okay, was this a good idea? And it's preliminary because, in all honesty, it's too early to tell. They got to build the rapport.
There's one thing that we haven't touched on, and regarding Cavalieri, what is the one most important thing with your setup of your car, any discipline? What's the one most important thing?
Tires.
Who's he been running this year?
You can answer that. I'm not answering that question.
He left one of the big name brands to go to Raw Speed, which I'm not saying anything against Raw Speed, but we all know that tires are the number one key in having your car set up and being comfortable, being fast, and lasting, tires lasting for a full hour or whatever, however long the main is. So we can't really, we've been putting all the focus on the car, but maybe there's other factors. Maybe, and I know that Jason's been really cool with his drivers and allowing them to run whatever tires they need to run if they don't have a tire that's working at a particular race. So I don't know at what level Ryan has been, maybe switching to something different, or maybe he's been loyal and has just been sticking with what Raw Speed has had for him, and maybe that has cost him a little bit of speed here and there. I don't know, but I think I saw a picture from AMS, and I kind of think that the tires that were on his car looked like ellipses. So I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what look like to me.
This is possible as well. And I'll bring us back to a conversation we've had before where I do think that there is value in the notion that tires on some cars don't work as well as they do on others. I do genuinely believe there are circumstances where some tires and some tire companies I think work better for different platforms. I do believe that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, like I feel like if I can tell that on my level, I feel like the Cavalieri could absolutely be able to tell on his.
Yeah, things like sidewall stiffness, the shape of the carcass, not necessarily the compound of the rubber, which does make a big difference, but there's little things that once drivers get to a certain level, they can feel a difference, and whether it'll be comfortable or not comfortable to drive at a certain level and a certain speed, maybe there's something more to it, and we're looking at the car to blame when it could be something else like the tires. I don't know.
This is entirely possible. It really is. And consider too, like the thing that people always say, and there is truth to this for sure, is that there are, everyone's talking about, tire companies copying each other and things like that and similar tread patterns and stuff like that. And I'm like, look, even if you take a tire that's made by Proline and a tire that's made by, let's say, AKA, and a good example of this was the Blockade and the Impact, right? Two tires,
very, very similar looking tire.
Very similar, and I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, almost exactly the same. And they genuinely, in my personal experience, did not perform even remotely close to the same. Even if the tread pattern is essentially identical, it does not mean the tire performance is going to be identical. So
they were completely different.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, and so while it is kind of, it's annoying, right? When you see a company come out with a tire and you're like, oh, that's just this tire. It actually, and let's be totally honest, it isn't. It isn't. It can look similar and they can make it as close to the tread pattern as all they want. But the reality is there's so many other different variables. So
there is one tire manufacturer that had been completely just ripping off other people's tread patterns, like an exact copy. Whereas most of the companies have been kind of respectful and have changed a little bit.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So that's a possibility as well. So who knows? Who knows?
But on the whole tire topic, we have some local news. I'm going to pull a Tim Smith right here. Local news. Tim Wallace has just announced that he's become the Hot Race Northwest rep.
Oh.
Yeah, I just saw that tonight.
Well, all right.
That's interesting. That's cool.
That is very interesting. Congrats to Tim.
There you go. Sorry for that late breaking news.
I always forget Hot Race exists.
See, that's a problem.
Yeah, that is, isn't it?
That's a problem that they need to overcome. That's their problem, not your problem.
Yeah. I agree with you there. For all intents and purposes, it seems like they don't make bad tires, but it seems for me like I never remember them. Like when we were just talking about, like when I was sitting there like rolling through my head trying to find tire comparisons, Hot Race did not even enter my mind. Right. But yeah, I guess we don't even see any locally, so I guess Tim's going to try and fix that.
The tire industry is funny because it's the one in which those companies tend to make more money than any other segment of RC racing.
Yeah.
The tire companies. And yet it's so hard to break into the tire game because there's 2 or 3 that have it locked down. And every once in a while one will pop up and they kind of just go along and do their thing and then they fizzle out. So to see to see new ones pop up is exciting, but also have in the back of your head, it's like, okay, how long are they going to last? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we've even seen AKA struggle.
There was a long time where people were kind of wondering how long AKA has left.
Right.
You know,
there was a period there they were struggling pretty hard, but
which is too bad, but I'm glad they pulled through.
I think they're making a little bit of a comeback.
Yeah, I think so.
They're pushing hard now.
I think so.
Which is good to see. Some competition in that area. Maybe it would be nice is to see tire prices go down with some competition.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, I don't see it happening, but
no,
that'd be nice.
Unfortunately. Yeah, so a quick recap at this point, just to kind of bring us back to where we are to this point. So, so Lutz to WRC, Pillars to 1UP, supported by AE. My bold prediction I had earlier this morning of Pillars returning to Kyosho and bringing in a new golden age fell flat on its face. So
that would have been really cool to see.
Such a stupid prediction, but I would have looked like an absolute genius if I was correct.
It's funny because you're not the only one that was predicting that. I saw a lot of people predicting that. Even tonight on Joe's live video, there was people before Joe actually made the announcement, people saying Kyosho.
People want the comeback. I mean, let's be real. People want the comeback, but it's, God, I don't know. You know what? I'm chalking it down to this, is that Kyosho is just not interested.
They're making enough money on mini-Zs. They don't need to.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's, I don't think they care.
There's a saying in racing. It's easy to make a small fortune racing if you start with a large one.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
They're selling the, I'm not going to say toy grade, but the hobby side kind of RC stuff.
The HPI side of Kyosho is what makes them money.
Yeah.
So
why spend money racing when we're making the money on this side? Why spend it over here when that side doesn't make us any money?
Although, God, I mean, a Kyosho TKI 3 kit when it came out was like retail $800. So
it was more than that.
It was ridiculous. So I think that it was kind of amazing, honestly, at a privateer level that they had. I mean, like, to be fair, the cars are to this day still very, very good, but it's funny to me that, like, even at like a club race level, we saw as many of them as they did, because, dude, now I think, like, we'd have, especially in the economy the way it is now, dude, you'd have to take like an SBA loan out to grab a new TKI kit. It was crazy.
The thing is those kits would last twice as long.
Oh, they did. You spent no money on upkeep. That's absolutely true.
The quality was phenomenal. I mean, it probably still is, but
yeah,
the quality was there. So you were getting what you were paying for.
Anybody who was trying to make Kyosho rock on a budget, dude, Dollar Hobbies was their best friend. Every sub that Dollar Hobbies would sell for whatever it was under retail for those parts. I mean, I can't tell you how many races I extended the life of my Kyoshos doing that. I built a whole truggy through Dollar Hobbies.
Yep.
The whole thing. It was the only way. It was the only way I could. Like, it was crazy.
Yep. And they were making more money doing it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. This is funny how that works, man. It was, what a different world. I mean, God, that was only like 6 years ago. Not even. I mean, that was really the point where it slowly started to decline. Like, it was crazy how much that's changed. It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, anyways, that's the prediction. 2021. Nobody goes to Kyosho.
What's CJ gonna do?
I don't know.
Are we going to see? I mean, we haven't really seen CJ do much this year
I
as
see
far
the
as racing
occasional,
anyway.
yeah, I mean, I see the occasional Facebook post, that, the cars look great. He just cleaned them. Maybe he went to Silver Dollar. I don't know. It's a shame if something doesn't really work out as an option because, I mean, the kid's talented, very talented.
Super talented.
So I don't know. I mean, again, though, this is, I hate to say this, but this is the unfortunate byproduct. Like we said, we know where the industry's going. Maybe for a lot of the companies, it's not worth investing in someone like him.
I think it's more worth investing in a younger driver at this point.
I think it would be.
I think you can get them cheaper for one.
Yeah.
And two, you can develop them and make them what you need them to be.
But that means that the company that brings them on has to be involved. And
yes,
the question is at this point is how much do the companies want to be involved? Honestly, like let's think about this a little bit. I didn't watch the broadcast, so you kind of have to be my source of information here. But is the 1UP AE thing just 10th scale? Has it been specified that it's an 8 scale extension as well?
That's a good question.
If it's both, I think that CJ provides a lot more valuable to someone like, or to a circumstance like that than a company, honestly. Maybe for being as young as he is, maybe not being strictly tied down by, I mean, I know it's like, it is at the end of the day, sort of like an AE deal, but maybe being just a circumstance of like a manufacturer, of an employee of a manufacturer, basically, it might not be as beneficial as a privateer team. I mean, this was kind of what Factory Tracks was going for,
right?
So there's a possibility there. Maybe, I mean, this is a long sort of like, shot, really. But if I'm going to put like on my list of the things I want to see happen, that's kind of where I'm leaning. Like that would be, I think, one of the cooler outcomes of all this. I think for his, I mean, like, look, let's be honest, for his sake, because Kyosho is not involved, I think he has to go. I think it's in the best interest of CJ's career if CJ still wants one. Maybe he doesn't. But if he is going to go somewhere, I mean, then I think that how cool would that be? Especially since, Pillars is fairly known for taking drivers on under his wing. And you can imagine that there's going to be a good crop of the young Yokomo drivers that are super quick. What a support system. That's what CJ hasn't had. So,
I don't know how this is all going to play out, because
fascinating, huh? Yeah.
Doing something like that is going to require Joe to travel a lot. And where's the budget going to come for that?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine. I mean, this is not a slide on 1UP at all, but it's hard to imagine 1UP paying for all that.
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's a pretty small company.
In reality, it is a fairly small company, and I don't know where the money would come for something like sending Joe to travel to all these races and this kind of thing. And I know that much more will pay to go to some of the electric races.
Mm-hmm. It's fascinating to me, though, that and this is what actually, the more that we think about this, it's fascinating to me, actually, because I'm like trying to imagine, like, they're going to pay somebody, not just Pillars, but they're going to pay a driver. Isn't that strange? Like that's where I'm kind of sitting there wondering, like
I don't see them being able to pay a driver. I can't picture it.
Maybe they can't, and maybe that's not their intention. I don't know, but it's God. We're just gonna have to wait and see, because now, like, the more that I'm like really letting this set in, I have so many questions.
Maybe they've got an outside sponsor. Maybe they've done they've got the holy grail that we've all been hoping for with an
Mayako.
outside sponsor.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe they did it. Maybe they achieved it finally.
I hope they did.
I think
In reality, I hope they did. I hope that it works out and they're able to do this with an outside sponsor and make it work. I think that would be the future.
it might be time to organize a little bit of an interview.
Yeah.
I think it might be time for that.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. So, God, that's crazy. Yeah, because now I'm just sitting here wondering like how this is going to look. This is exciting. This is really exciting because this is a big step for the industry, an industry that is so reluctant to change. So this is pretty cool. It's really neat to see someone like take a step here.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I really love it. I'm excited for it to see how it develops and what they're actually going to do to make it work. Because on paper right now, it kind of doesn't really work. But Joe's a very smart person when it comes to this kind of stuff, and I'm pretty sure Randy is as well.
Oh, I mean, yeah, those are two people who are very in touch with the industry. Let's be real. So,
right. So there has to be more that they haven't said at this point.
Yeah.
In order for this to work out the way it should.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I do. So I guess we wait and see, and maybe we find out a little bit on the show. So that'd be cool.
Yeah.
So
yeah, let's try to make that happen.
Yeah, I'm down. Okay. Anything else silly season that we wanted to cover? I mean, so far it's still a little bit of quiet. I don't really have a lot of areas that were even like worthy of a whole lot of speculation because, again, like I said, everything just comes back to the point of like, man, where are guys going to go? You know?
Yeah, we haven't seen a whole lot of spots open up yet. So to speculate with somebody going somewhere is really kind of tough because knowing the industry, there's only so many spots.
Mm-hmm. And they're shrinking.
Somebody has to make a move before somebody can move into that spot.
This is okay. So actually, we have said it on the show. There is a glaring one. I mean, I would be extremely surprised if Mayfield did not leave Yokomo.
Yeah.
So
kind of, I don't know if maybe he's the only one now that can get a paycheck since they cut everyone else, or since everyone else is no longer there. I shouldn't say
maybe, but unless there is literally nowhere else for him to go, would he want to stay there and just be the guy? It's really hard to imagine. Of course, it's possible for sure. I mean, that could totally be what's going on. But we know the relationship that a lot of these drivers, not just Mayfield, but they have with Pillars and the support system that Pillars has had at that level. And not only is Pillars gone, but you have all of basically the young Yokomo crop, all the fast guys for Yokomo at that level basically gone. Yeah, I mean, I have such a tough time believing that Mayfield is going to be soloing that journey. So unless Yokomo is going to try and bring different people in, I don't know. But I mean, it seems to me like there's a pretty steep departure here from the racing world. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting because it's like you can't really imagine, that's why he got there in the first place, is that you can't really imagine Mayfield leaving Mugen because of, if absolutely nothing else, because of Drake. So you can then speculate, okay, a 10 scale only deal. So who? I mean, really, like who? Like no one comes to mind.
I don't know where he would go.
Yeah.
Like,
it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know.
And I mean, he does race quite a bit of 10 scale, so it's not like he would just be Mugen full time. Maybe he could, but I mean, what incentive would Mugen have to send him to 10 scale races to race whatever cars he wants? That doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? So,
No.
Yeah, because it's not like Mugen's going to pay for the cars either. So I don't know.
We're just gonna have to wait and see.
God, I guess we are. But that is the one I'm waiting to see. That's the one that I have heard absolutely nobody talk about.
The Mayfield.
Is Mayfield. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's when this whole rumor mill started, our thought was Pillars to S Works, which would, and then the rumor was Cav out at S Works, which meant that would open up a spot for Mayfield to go to S Works and leave Mugen and Yokomo. So that all kind of made sense. And then it kind of made sense that Cav wanted to run 8 scale only. So, okay, there's a spot open at Mugen now. So they basically flip-flop.
Could be.
That was kind of the way it was all being pictured, the way I pictured it anyway, when it all started, all these rumors started. But it obviously isn't going in that direction because Joe has made his announcement tonight already. So
the only thing I guess then the only thing that could put that scenario still in play is that all of that happens, but just without Pillars. Mayfield goes to S Works, is their number one guy, and Cavallari out goes to Mugen where he has an 8 scale only deal. It's hard to imagine because I have a tough time seeing Mayfield leaving the Mugen and Drake relationship, but it's possible. Like, I mean, we've seen weirder things happen. I mean, what Pillars and Cavallari are essentially considered best friends, and things did not work out at Yokomo. So you can't rule it out.
Right.
It's fascinating. It's really fascinating. So
that would be an interesting swap for sure.
That would be. So maybe, Cavallari to Mugen, that's something I'd never see. I never thought I'd see. That's interesting to picture. Huh. All right. I mean, we never know. We never know. That's what I'm watching, though. I mean, unfortunately, at the same time, though, given what we know about where things are headed, I think that's the most likely scenario for. I think that's the most likely scenario in a way, if anything's going to happen. Otherwise, yeah, again, I don't know what Mayfield does. I think that's more likely than Mayfield just running Yokomo on his own. So, yeah, we just wait and see. But I guess maybe that's the one where if Track Walk is going to maybe be looking at anything, it's going to be looking at that, and we'll just see what happens.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think there will be a major change coming, but I don't know.
Something's going to blindside us is what's going to happen.
You know what's going to happen is something tomorrow. Something will be posted tomorrow.
And then, okay, so I was talking to Sean about this earlier, and our Maybell, and I was talking to him, and I was like, we're going to talk about silly season tonight. Tomorrow I'm going to wake up, find out I'm wrong, and then I have to wait another 2 days, post an episode, and just publish how wrong I was. And just starts laughing. But unfortunately, that might be the case.
Yep.
All right. Well, so since nobody, to minimize the chastising, it is 9:29 on December 1st. So we don't know what we don't know at this point. So work with us. We do what we can for you.
Joe's doing the 1UP AE thing. That's all we know.
That's all we know, which is super cool. And, hats off to Pillars and hats off to Randy and 1UP. I know they're technically a competitor of mine, but honestly, credit where credit's due. I mean, that's super cool to do. So I think that this is going to be a pretty exciting journey for those guys. So hopefully we get to have Billers on and we can discuss it with him a little bit and determine, hey, where's this going? And we can get some of these questions answered. And maybe by then too, maybe some of it will have already come to light. So each passing day is going to get more and more exciting. So this is I think a pretty cool direction for the RC industry. I hope more people follow if this works. And I think honestly, if the finances work, and we're going to wait to see how this 1UP thing goes, but if the finances work, I think this will be the only way that anybody saves the pro driver. I think this is what you have to do. So we'll see.
We have to, there's going to be some creative moves. It has to be creative. Things are changing, and people just have to be creative. So it'll be cool.
Adapt.
Yep.
Well, cool. I don't really have anything else.
No. Well, we didn't answer all of Chris's.
Did we not?
Question.
What did we miss?
He asked about Tim Smith. Tim Smith kind of made a big announcement this week.
Did he? I don't know anything.
He announced he's parting ways and going off and doing his own thing from Tekin.
Gotcha. See, I didn't even watch the announcement.
Yeah. So that was kind of a big thing. If you're into the drag racing world, it's kind of a big thing. He's kind of pushed Tekin quite a bit, and he's kind of been their guy. And that was kind of a big move that he made. So, I don't know. I talked to Tim quite a bit, and I really don't know what he's doing. So he's just going to go try some stuff, I guess.
Yeah, big move. Well, there you go. I suppose that pretty much encompasses everything, I think. We talked about this last week. We do have some cool goodies that were sent to us by the awesome guys at Performance Racing Options. And so we're going to set up this next week. We're going to set up a sort of raffle for you guys. So just make sure to watch our Facebook page. We're still getting some of the details ironed out, but hopefully actually the day that this episode is posted on Friday, look for a post on our Facebook page explaining the details of how this is going to work, because we're trying to look at having everything set up and done on Monday, and we're going to get some giveaways of some of the goodies. So just stay tuned here and make sure you go check out our Facebook page as soon as you hear this episode. And yeah, you might be able to win some cool stuff, and we'll try and give back a little bit. And just also quick thank you to these guys, Performance Racing Options for allowing us to do something like this for them. Super neat guys. Bryce Beaver, awesome individual. If you've never had the pleasure of meeting him or racing with him, super cool. So pretty excited to do this, right? I know that we said, but they're not an advertiser by any means, but I know that we've said in the past, or at least I've said anyways, that I am very keen on never doing ads for Track Walk, but I am 100% game to do stuff like this for companies, especially the smaller companies, because it's exposure is hard to come by in an industry that can get pretty saturated. So these guys are making some awesome stuff. They deserve the recognition, and you're going to get to see some of it, towards the end of this week and early next week, and you have a chance to win some of it too. So again, just go check out our page, check out the details, and just make sure you participate and enter.
I'm excited about that because I've been running some of their products on my TLR cars, and they've actually been an improvement over the stock parts. It's not just a bling thing. It's that they actually engineer them to be an improvement in certain areas. So, take a look at their stuff and get to win some on our show next week. That'll be cool.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So I think Colin will probably clean his car a little bit and pull up some pictures to see how cool the stuff looks on the car. and I'll post up what I've got to give away, and we'll roll with it from there. So, yeah.
Or maybe I'll just leave it dirty and take some pictures of it.
Yeah, you could do that too. He's for anybody who doesn't know, Colin is more of it's a workbench, not a photo booth kind of guy. So
that's my problem. I don't have anywhere good to take pictures because my workbench is being worked on.
Dude,
it's always being worked on. There's
tell me about it.
done.
Yeah,
it's a disaster.
I know exactly how you feel. So this is I think this weekend I spent my Saturday reorganizing my office for probably the 5th or 6th time since we moved into this place. Like a complete reshuffle. Like all of the desks are moved, the workbench, the shelvings, everything has changed because I set something up one way and then I realize, oh, that's not going to work when I try and go do something, and then I have to swap it all again. And I'm going to do like a video pretty soon here of like kind of an inside look at, you know, what it takes to kind of put this all together between Track Walk and then what I do for SOR a little bit, but mostly for the podcast. And you'll kind of get to see a little bit of the space I work with, but also just kind of how I have everything laid out so that way I can do, you know, Track Walk and that Scale RC show and stuff like that. So it's a pretty involved operation that I put inside of an apartment. So I'm going to drop that pretty soon. And yeah, I mean, we were going to record tonight. And since I had just done this, I didn't have my microphone set up. I didn't have my board set up. I didn't have any of the cables routed, and I'm plugging like the wrong cables in. I'm just like, oh man, this is a disaster. So I think this time I am committed to the layout, but because I have committed to the layout, yeah, I don't have a photo booth for anything. So that's why honestly you see so like little videos from us as it is, because I don't have my space set up for that. I need everything to be functional all the time. So yeah, I mean, it's a self-perpetuating problem. And this is the problem, I guess, of just the RC nerd in general. So
who you calling nerd?
So yeah, but anyways, I think we can get out of here. What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for checking in to episode 61 of the Track Walk RC podcast. I really hope everybody enjoyed last week's episode with Dakota Fend as well. That was a lot of fun. And just once again, a huge thanks to Dakota for spending his time to come talk to us. And then also too, just again, thank you for your listenership, and a huge thank you to the people who go the extra mile to support us on Patreon, help us keep the bills paid and the lights on. Just really appreciate all of you guys who really step up to do that. And it warms my heart quite a bit that people actually like us enough that they want to do something like that. So I really appreciate it.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. We couldn't do it without you guys, genuinely. So, yeah, with that, let's get out of here. And you guys have a great week. Enjoy your weekend. I guess we're getting to that point where we can start saying happy holidays and all that. So, yeah, we'll see you guys soon.
Christmas music as an intro.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. We're not too far away from that. Some people have already started the Christmas music. Hep has already started the Christmas decorating. We're already there. Oh, man.
Well, my house is too. Yeah. We've got all this stuff. We don't have a tree set up. I don't think we're going to do a tree, but
I think we're doing the tree this year, unfortunately. So
yeah, well,
don't get me wrong. It all looks nice when it's all done, but I am not a decorative person. So I basically am just staying out of the way and letting Hep run wild, and it's going to look great in the end. And in the meantime, I just gotta stay out of the way. So I think that's the plan. Well, cool. All right. Thank you, everybody. 62. We'll see you soon.
Keep the silly season news coming.